wanted to trace a little bit of your career trajectory that you've done in your life, and I wanted you to share a little bit of kind of the maybe non-traditional path that you've taken. I think it inspires a lot of our students here who may be a little bit confused about what they want to do with their lives. And to know that you started out actually in the sciences, but then transitioned to use your interest in math in a more interesting way in finance. And you actually started working at Nordstrom's when you were in college and then joined them full-time after you graduated. And then ended up all the way into being CEO of your own firm, Blue Ocean Global Wealth. So I wondered if you could trace a little bit of that trajectory with us and tell a few of the lessons that you have learned that have led to your success, and if maybe some pieces of advice that you might like to share with our students.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so moved, Serena. That was incredible. Serena, you kept the secret because usually I can figure out everything. I tell my kids that moms, we have eyes in the back of our head. And we have like, you know, you're the mom. We see everything.
There's a little bit of advice that doesn't
right. So it's truly an honor to be here. I never actually really feel that I left, but this is what I tell people. I tell people every day, you know, be open to the possibilities. So just to tell you a little bit about myself. So I graduated from high school when I was 17. My dad was born in China, came to the U.S. by way of Taiwan. I'm ABC. What's ABC? American born Chinese. And my mom didn't really go to college, and my dad came here to go to graduate school, so I never really had any mentors. By the grace of God, I figured it out along the way. So when I came to UMD, I took a lot of math, I took a lot of science. Serena will tell you I'm very good in chemistry, but physics really was challenging for me. And I struggled. I went to see my TA like every day. Every day is an exaggeration, but you get it. So I liked math, I was good at math, and I loved statistics. And I know, that's crazy, but, and no, I just love the power behind numbers. And I discovered, wow, you need to tell me like that calculus and statistics I took, like, I've already satisfied that requirement. You know, I think I want to be a finance major. And so I was admitted to the Smith School. It was so exciting. Back then, it was not called the Smith School. I did have one semester in very much in Hall VMH, as you guys call it today, but I had classes in Chinese Hall. So that's a little bit about my journey. I knew I was good at math, and I wanted to be able to apply those skills to business. And so I studied finance, but when I was in school, I didn't necessarily know the discipline of financial planning, right? I was actually very good at accounting. So remember I said you have to be open to the possibilities? I tell people every day, sometimes you're not going to like every class you have. And you may not like every professor you have. And it might be a situation where you don't like the class and you don't like the professor. So I try to put things in quadrants. Let's see. You like the class and you like the professor. You like the class, you don't like the professor. I'm starting to get confused.
You don't like the class and like the professor.
You don't like the professor and you don't like the class and you don't like the professor. This is like the worst possible combination. What we need to tell yourself is life goes on. Just get over it and move on. So I was in a situation where I liked my professor, but I didn't really like the class. I did really well in accounting. But I wanted to have an open mind, so I did this accounting internship. And I gotta be honest, I wasn't doing it for the money because my part-time job paid like 4 times as much. But I did the accounting internship to get experience. And that accounting internship was really important because it confirmed that I really, even though I wasn't good at it, I'm not disrespecting accounting, it's very important. But that experience helped me. So it's just as important to know what you like as much as what you don't like. So if you don't know what you like, students, it's okay. Find out what you like. So be open to big takeaways, be open to possibilities. When things are presented to you, you know, I could have said, you know, I hate accounting. Why would I do that internship? But I'm like, you know, I really don't like accounting. I'm clearly not doing this for the money, right? Why would you do something like that? But that allowed me to cross-train and learn other things that I could apply.
you were at Nordstrom's for a period of time. You moved up through the ranks. We'll talk a little bit about some of the really interesting things you did while you were working there and what you learned. You were at a point in which you could consider becoming a buyer, and you moved on to work for Ameriprise with 2 small children, a 6-month-old at home. And then after, I think, 14 years with a firm, a big firm in the financial planning industry, you moved on to found your own firm. I love this idea of taking advantage of opportunities, because it seems as if every juncture you turn something small into something much bigger. So I want to bring up a little story that you told me, which showcases a little bit of some of the work that a lot of women are doing outside of just their 9-to-5 job, although they're 8-to-7 job. That women are out there, they are serving on boards, nonprofit boards, they are volunteering. I saw some pictures of you with Girls on the Run. I know so many women in these communities who work for that organization, and actually had the chance to meet the woman that runs it. And you had a really interesting story that you filled out a survey for the Financial Planners Professional Association. Can you talk a little bit about how filling out a survey led to a really interesting opportunity for you?
Sure, this is incredible. So in January of 2003, I'd already been like 4 years into my career in financial services, and I enrolled in coursework to complete CFP, Certified Financial Planner Education at Georgetown. I would have come to UMD, but I didn't begin offering the course here. So anyhow, I joined the Professional Association FPA for Financial Planners. This is a true story, and I tell this. So the first meeting that I went to, I was young then, that was a while ago. I didn't have the CFP mark, and I didn't know anybody. I'm a little bit introverted, but I said, Rita, you just gotta get it together. You've entered schools where you didn't know anybody, you couldn't even speak the language. Just stand tall and proud, smile, and you'll be all right. So, I mean, I'm 5'8" with heels, I'm 6 feet tall. So I entered the room, and I walked out. Because I didn't see anybody that looked like me. I saw a lot of older white guys. There's no men here, right? So that's okay. This guy, he saw me there. He's like, can I help you? I said, yeah, I'm looking for the Financial Planning Association meeting. He's like, yeah, it's here. I almost had a heart attack. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I don't see anybody like me. Man, if anybody knows me, they know me too, like overthink stuff. I was like, this organization's gonna have a serious problem in the next 10 years, and they must get great. Everything was like racing through my mind. So this is a story that I told Nicole. I received a survey. About a year later, people said, well, what do you think about FPA? And I was very candid. I said, I think FPA, my kids know that I talk like this. I think FPA is amazing. It's incredible. Wonderful networking opportunity. But I'd like it to be a little bit more inclusive. I'm not trying to put like the old white guys out. That's not what I'm saying. I just want it to be more inclusive. So someone calls me 4 months later and says, Rita, we got your survey and we want to know if you want to be a volunteer on this diversity task force. I said, sure, what do I need to do? They're like, nothing, but just share insights of what you think we should do. So this, I joined in 2003. It took me a while to attend the first meeting. It was probably sometime in 2004 because I was working. I had 2 kids, and I was running my practice. So they sent out the survey in 2005 or so, and then I was, invited to this task force. In 2007, I was invited to be on the board of the local chapter, and in 2012, I was president. And my daughter will tell you, gosh, it took a lot of time. It was a labor of love. I didn't do it for the title, but the thing that I'm most proud of, and I can say this, is the board of our local chapter. We had 7 people under 40. Does not mean we pushed more veteran established advisors out. They were our senior advisors. But the people who were running the organization were mid-career, and that was really important. But the other thing that I think is incredible is the ability to, I've had a lot of women come up to me, and women of color, they said to me, Rita, the fact that you're president of this association, like that's why I'm here. And it made me think that, you know what, this is why I put myself out there. I don't know all the answers. I don't think I'm great. I've had, I've had men tell me, Rita, you're not aggressive enough. You're not qualified enough for this. And I told my mentor, within the Financial Planning Association, I don't really need to do this. Like I have kids, I have family responsibilities. And I told Nicole, this is like, actually, yes, you do. You need to do this because it's important for you to do this because you're really creating opportunities for other people. People cannot be what they cannot see.
Maybe I just turned on myself.
That's what I think.
We can be loud. I'm loud. I teach 60 students all the time.
I can shout. My kids will tell you I can shout. So he invited me to the board, and I said to him, I was like, you know what, Gary, I'm a little bit concerned because we talked about how we want to be more inclusive and bring more people to the profession, but yet I didn't gossip, I didn't mention who said it, but I'm kind of getting a sense that people don't feel like I'm qualified to lead because I'm not aggressive and I'm not leading in the style they think is appropriate. Having said that, I don't need titles because Lord knows this is a volunteer gig. I'm not taking compensation. And he's like, Rita, actually you need to do this because people, I just repeat this part, people cannot be what they cannot see. And from that, here in the DMV, I've mentored 5 African American women to sit for CFP certification. And that is just really important to me because we look at the population of certified financial planners, there's 76,000. And if you add all the minorities together, everyone together, it's not even 5%.
Wow. I want to move on to talking a little bit about, on this note, you are a high-powered woman in finance. And this is a field that a lot of us, and just even the numbers tell us, that is typically associated with being for men, right? Hard-charging, aggressive, competitive. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what are some skills that you think women actually bring to finance. And then there's maybe some skills for women in the audience who might be interested in moving into a career in finance or as a financial planner that they might want to think about developing. So first, kind of the skills that we talked about a little bit on this note too, of being assertive but not aggressive, and other things that you think that women might need to learn or pick up as they're thinking about a career.
Sure. So one of the things I also wanted to mention is be open to, remember we talked about being open to opportunities, but don't underestimate any little task. I think this is really important. So my pledge class, my co-ed service fraternity, I was historian. So that seems like a little job, but I mean, I did a good job at that. Then I was promoted, this is no surprise here, to fundraising chair. I mean, I guess I was like good at with money and raising money, and everyone knows that. So that's really important. But finance, let's talk about finance. So finance is very fast-paced. I think how I was able to realize success in my own ways, remember my love for math, I was good at accounting. My first job in finance was actually as an analyst, well actually even as an editor in newsletter, and then an analyst, because I understood accounting and I could read financial statements. Even though my spoken Japanese was not that good, I could read and write. And most people, it's the opposite. They can speak very well, but they can't read and write.
So this was the internship you had
yes.
With, what was the name of the university again?
So I did a study abroad program where I won a scholarship to work, live, and study in Japan at Keio University. And then you're allowed to work in your field because you have a special visa. So employers, depending on your skill set, they can hire you. You're allowed to work, stay in the country and work. So my boss hired me because he needed someone who could read Japanese. And he had a newspaper and he asked me, can you read Japanese? I'm like, sure I can. And I'm not necessarily, don't come across as being the most assertive person, but he gave me a newspaper to read and I read it out loud to him. He's like, Rita, do you know what this means? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, that's interesting because I actually need someone who can do this. I was like, really? So I think for me, yes, financial services is very cutthroat and aggressive, but I was able to feel confident in my own way because I understood accounting, I was good at math, and I had a skill that this man really needed. He needed someone who was a native speaker of English, who understood financial statements, and who could read Japanese, so I could figured that out. I was the girl for the job. The job was like made especially for me. So that was multitasking. I think what makes women very good for finance, okay, we might not be as aggressive, we might not be alpha males, but we view the world from a different lens. The other thing that I think is extremely important is people say, you know, women, they're risk averse. I'm like, no, there's a distinction here. Women are risk aware. And I think that makes us really good for finance because we're aware of the risk. We acknowledge the risk. So I think the world needs more women in finance. People, gender diversity, different way of thinking is really important because you can approach problems differently.
One of the things that we talked about, well, first I want to bring up just the idea too that we hear a lot that women aren't good negotiators. The truth is, a lot of times we are actually better negotiators when we're negotiating on behalf of someone else. So when you're thinking about representing your clients and working and building that relationship with them, which yes, half of financial services is the math part, but the other half is building those relationships. The other thing that we talked about a bit is this idea of needing sponsorship. When you are moving into a new field or you want to sort of move up within your field, we hear a lot about mentors. Oh, you need to find a mentor, find mentors. But it sometimes has to go beyond mentorship where you need to find someone who will actually advocate on your behalf. So I wonder if you can talk a little bit about some of the experiences you've had with sponsorship in your career.
Sure, so that's not to say you don't need mentors. I think that you need both, or it may be appropriate to have both. Everybody's different. So I've had 2 sponsors. So the first sponsor is Gary Altman. He's from Maryland. And he's actually the one who invited me to the board because I was really good at bringing members in. I brought 11 members in and I won this trip to San Diego when Carolina was a baby. I went to San Diego in September. Carolina was born in February, so San Diego was nice. I missed Carolina so much, but I did get like 3 nights of good uninterrupted in San Diego. And so Gary was a sponsor for me. He told me, you can do this. Yes, you need to do this. I didn't work for him. He wasn't my boss, but he was a sponsor advocate pulling for me. Another sponsor told me, Rita, you have to build a brand for yourself. You have to build a name for yourself. If you read something in the press and you don't agree with it, don't be combative. Just reach out to the writer and say, hey, I like what you said about XYZ, but have you considered ABC? So this advice has been very helpful for me in my career, being published at a young age and being able to build a following.
So we talked a little bit about kind of the transitions you've made in your career. I think the most surprising thing for me was that you had moved up at Nordstrom's. You were at the point where you were going to become a buyer, and you said, "No, I'm really ready to take on a new challenge." And you had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old at home, and he said, "Nope, going to completely change industries and go into the financial services industry." And for me, that's just so amazing and inspiring. And then after that, you went out and formed your own business. So I wondered if you could tell a little bit for the alumni in our audience, or maybe students that are in the MBA program thinking about potential career changes, what are some things that you might recommend if you're considering a radical career change, or you're really looking to move into a different direction in your career? Because we hear a lot of negative things about it, like, oh, don't do it, it's hard. But you've done it really successfully and gracefully, and I wondered if you could share some of your advice for that.
Sure, I mean, transitioning is never going to be easy. So here's the situation. I have been so my first job in financial services was Tokyo Wall Street. The Japanese economy was slowing down. Remember, I told you I'm ABC. I'm from here originally, like all good things. I wanted to come home. But then I also had Serena and Christian. Serena was 3. Christian, her brother, was 6 months old. I had been at Nordstrom for some time. I knew I was always going to go back to financial services. People were like, well, why would you work at Nordstrom? When you're 22 years old, 23 years old, it's really hard to convince a client to save for retirement. They're looking at you like, what do you do? You're a kid. But Nordstrom taught taught me something very valuable about multitasking, dealing with the public. It was service, servant leadership. I had to manage, at one time I managed like, I don't know, 39 sales girls. It's not easy. And one stock guy. Managing the stock guy was really easy because he definitely really enjoyed what he did. But I was at an inflection point in my career. The next step for me was to be a buyer. And I told myself, at the time I was 32. Serena was 3, Christian was 6 months old. 32 is not old, that's not what I'm saying. I was like, this is not going to be easy. But I could be a buyer, but it's very hard for me to be a good mother and a good buyer, be traveling all the time. And I wanted to do things on my terms. I wanted to be in charge of my schedule. I wanted to be able to take my kids to ballet, to karate. I wanted to be able to not have to, I work nights sometimes, like I see clients, I work on my laptop, but I didn't want to have to leave. I wanted to be there for them. So managing my career and parenthood was something really important to me. So I said, you know what? I helped my husband pay off his student loans, his credit card debt. We bought a house. I gave birth to 2 babies. I had the highest participation rate in the company for 401k because I counseled every sales girl not to save in their 401k. That's it. I can be a planner. You mean there's a discipline where I help people with their finances? Like I knew about corporate finance. I'm like, that's it. I want to be a planner. And I made it happen.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, and she started out at counseling. The great story. Can you tell a little bit about how you did that? How you would take your sales associates to coffee and...
Sure. So Nordstrom was an incredible company to work for. I mean, I even told Serena that it only cost me $100 to bring her to this world. Like, when you became pregnant, you only had to pay $100 co-payments. And then if you went to your well-child visits, like they know how to reward us. You got like a Nordstrom gift certificate, like spend like back in the store, right? So it was an incredible company to work for. I learned so much, but you know, I wanted to be able to be there.
Yeah.
And so I understood the employee benefits, but a lot of my sales girls, they would say, you know, why would I? This isn't my like real job, why would I want to participate in my 401k? And at the time, Nordstrom's match was very generous. It was 100%, 60%. Yes, and it was, you didn't need to be didn't need to be full time. You just had to have worked there for 1 year. So many of my girls worked their way through school, and I wanted them to have money. And the thing that we didn't necessarily talk about this in our time with Nicole, I also look for people, not necessarily for good experience, I look at how they do their job. So I feel very good about creating opportunities for others. People know that I really like coffee. For me, Starbucks is not a discretionary expense, it's essential. And so,
we met at a coffee shop.
So 3 of my sales girls were girls that made coffee for me every morning, and I saw how they interacted with clients. And what I would do is when I had a new sales girl come on board and she was eligible for those employee benefits, what did we do? I guess it's so progressive. We had a walk-in meeting and we'd walk in, we'd get coffee. And we'd go over their benefits because I wanted that time to be their time. And lo and behold, I didn't realize it, but we had the highest 401k participation rate in the entire company.
I was sitting here thinking about this and thinking about the time that you were doing and the young women that you were counseling. Some of them probably were so young in college, and I was just thinking, wow, time value of money. I wonder how much money they have in their retirement accounts now because of what you did. So if you are not investing in your retirement accounts, please invest your look and see what the company matching is, because it really does increase over time in an amazing way. So yeah, don't miss out on free money. But yeah, I would love to hear how much money they were making now. I bet they have a lot of those accounts. So after you moved from Nordstrom's to Ameriprise, what made you decide to form your own company? What was it's really going out there. Obviously you have a lot of expertise that you developed in the industry, but it's pretty bold. So what was inspiring you to do that?
Sure, so I am very intuitive. A lot of people even said to me, they're like, Rita, why would you leave Nordstrom? Like, you're like 100% vested, you get to be a buyer. Like, why would you do that? That's ridiculous. I was like, well, you know what? I have to be uncomfortable. If I'm too comfortable, like, I don't think that's good. So why did I leave Ameriprise? Ameriprise is not bad. But things started to bother me. There's like, you probably heard in the news, the other F word, which is fiduciary. I really wanted to do what's in my client's best interest. And you talk about a life-changing event. So I was one of those girls who was 17 going on 40, right? And after I had Christian and Serena and Carolina, I'm not leaving you out, you weren't born yet, okay? I told my parents that they needed to plan. I'm like, you guys need to plan. My mom was 53, my dad was 68. They were good at planning, but they didn't plan for everything. My dad became very sick. My dad had Parkinson's disease, but I told my parents to plan when my mom was 53, my dad was 68. My parents were good savers, but they didn't think about what-if scenarios, long-term care. And my mom said to me, she said, Rita, that's like stuff for old people. I'm like, Mommy, you're young and beautiful, don't worry about it. Just say that so that Dad gets a spousal discount. My dad said, well, this is kind of expensive. And I'm like, Dad, it is, but you know, I just didn't think I was a bad salesperson, but sometimes I actually am pretty good at sales. I'm like, Dad, it is expensive, but like if I had to pay for your care, I don't know what I would do. I would have to like, I don't know what I would do. Like if there's $1, do I tear it in half and be half for my kids for education, half for your care? You know, when you're speaking to older Asian parents, you just like hit them over the head with education. She's like, okay, okay. So, why I decided to, when I said things were bothering me, Ameriprise, they do great work, but we had to give first rights of refusal for certain types of insurance products to them. And that bothered me, because what if someone can't get insurance? You don't want them to apply with your company and then it had to be on their record that they were denied. Like, this really bothered me. It bothered me so much for 5 years. Like, you have to be careful, like, what bothers me, because I'm actually going to go out and do something about it. Remember I told you I didn't like there was no diversity, so I solved that problem. This really bothered me. I also felt like financial planning, investment management, wealth management, really was overlooking so many of, so many populations, like women, minorities, and this is what I call emerging wealth. And I'm like, that's it, I can't take this anymore. So it might appear to people that that was impulsive, but remember, I'm a private person. I'm slightly more extroverted, but I'm a little bit introverted and introspective. I kept it to myself, and then when I resigned, this is so funny. I had 2 laptops, and I did all the work on one laptop. It's my laptop. I can do what I want. This is America. So I resigned. My boss said to me, I resigned via fax, because like I didn't want to have to go in the office. And then he like called me. He's like, what's this? You're like a model advisor. Clearly this must be a mistake. I'm like, listen, I love Ameriprise. I do. I said, but I can't work here anymore. It's nothing you did. There's just things I want to do and things I need to fix, and I can't do it while I'm here. Ameriprise truly was awesome for the first half of my career. But the next half, I want to help a lot of people, and that's really important to me. And I want to, you got to be careful what you tell me to do. You told me to build a brand, to write, and sometimes you guys won't let me write because you say it's not consistent with the firm brand. And you got to be careful what you tell me to do, because I am really obedient. You told me to network. You told me to, and I did it. And I mean, I'm here to tell you that Ameriprise did treat me really well when I left, because I followed all the rules. Like, I didn't solicit, people came to me. It was very painful, but it was the right thing. And here we are 3 years later with the fiduciary rule. A lot of clients text me, they're like, Rita, you're a fiduciary, right? You put our interests first. I'm like, always. And they're like, that's what we thought. We're so glad we have you. So that was a little bit of a long answer, but my dad's illness really changed my life, because it told me if I didn't have those difficult conversations, Like, it would have been different. What kind of advisor could I call myself?
It's really inspiring. I mean, I think just the fact that you turned obedience into this bold move, and just also, I'm hearing these values that just come through so strongly for you about caring for people that, you know, may not have the ability to be serviced by some of these bigger firms, and you're really going out there and you're doing that. Okay, so we're going to do a lightning round. If any of you are fans of Tim Ferriss, I have a love-hate relationship with Tim Ferriss, but I think he talks to too many men. I want to hear some more women. But so we're going to do our own lightning round a la Tim Ferriss with some questions. Start off with, what is the book or books that you've given the most as a gift?
Sure. There are 3 books that I give a lot. I like The Speed of Trust by Stephen R. Covey. I had the opportunity to hear him speak, and I cried because it just so moved me.
Everyone's taking notes.
This
is the note-taking part.
This is the note-taking part. Strengths Finder, I like a lot. And then for people who want to start a business, Blue Ocean Strategy. I was inspired by that book, and if you feel like it's too dry, don't worry, I still love you. There's parts that are really dry, but I love you.
I think it's certain criteria business professors, so that's, you know, we can get on a tangent. All right, so I crossed this one out, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because this is, I think, a fun discussion. What is your favorite documentary, movie, or TV show?
I'm going to need Serena's help. I mean, I like to watch Arthur a lot. I don't really watch TV. After I had Carolina, I was really strategic with my time, because people like, well, 1 + 1 isn't 2, or 2 + 1 isn't 3. So I was like, okay, I got the fat out of my schedule. So I gave up TV, but there are 2 exceptions. I watch the Grammys, and I watch the Olympics.
What is the worst advice you hear being dispensed in the world right now?
That's too risky. You can't do that. Who are you to tell me what I can do, right? Well, nobody's ever done that before.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. Good. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
There's a couple. Well, let's be inspiring. I truly believe that anything is possible with purpose, passion, and a plan. The 3 Ps.
Okay. What advice would you give to your 20 or 25-year-old self, and what were you doing?
Do not confuse assertive behavior with aggressive behavior. Sometimes I didn't really understand the distinction, but I do now.
And finally, how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success?
I think if we're not failing, we're not learning and growing and developing.
So I'm going to open up for Q&A. Oops, let me turn my microphone off. We have a couple of volunteers who will come around and bring a microphone to you. And so hopefully some of our discussion has sparked some thoughts about if you're going into finance, or if you're considering starting your own business, or just general career advice or life advice. So don't be shy. Go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. Otherwise, I might take on some of my students for the audience. I'm right here.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Holmes, and I'm a prospective MBA student. Just curious, I'm also an introvert, but I know down the road I would like to start my own business as well, mostly with supply chain consulting though. So I guess my question would be, what exact steps did you take knowing that you've worked for a firm for 14 years, and how did you get started with doing your own business?
Sure, so I think one of the other myths that people say is introverts can't be good leaders. Introversion doesn't necessarily mean you're shy, it just means sometimes you need time away from people. You need time for yourself. I'm perfectly content being up here, but I'm also happy sitting reading a magazine. So my advice to you would be to meet other people. Notice I didn't say network, just meet with other people, have connections, build relationships, attend industry conferences. Even if you can't afford to attend an industry conference, maybe you can volunteer, And then they will comp your registration, reach out to people, and just say, hey, do you have time for a conversation and coffee? I'm always like, if someone reached out, do you have time for conversation and coffee? I think that's good. Thank you.
Hello. I had a question since with you being in the financial services world. My background is I actually was with the corporate financial side with Lockheed Martin for 15 years, and I had a 4-year-old. I have a 4-year-old and now a 1.5-year-old. And so when I had my second child, I decided to make a change as well, and I moved into the personal financial services side. And being, I think, as you had mentioned, Nicole, you know, being a working woman, I think the talent of being able to multitask really comes in handy. But I found that now moving from the corporate world to a more, the benefits of the personal financial services world sometimes is the flexibility that you get. However, that in combination with multitasking, I have found that sometimes it actually makes it harder because for me, I like to optimize my day. I was used to the structure in corporate, and you know, so I wanted to see how do you, having such a successful career, making a career change, raising wonderful children, what's your recommendation to best optimize the multitasking when you're balancing both worlds in that industry?
Sure, so I can speak about what worked for me when I was early on in career. So during the day, I would try to make sure it was people or phones. So either making phone calls with people or meeting people. I would try not to do paperwork during the day because I could do that like at night, or I could do that when they were doing their homework. That's why I didn't watch TV. I thought, okay, when they're doing homework, like I'll do my paperwork, or when they're doing homework, that's when I'll study. People ask me, like, Rita, why do you have so many letters after your name? I'm like, well, when they did their homework, like I did my homework. When they had tests, I had tests. Confession, I actually did fail one test, but that's good. That's that failure question, how I failed. So which I'll come back to later, but I think that also looking at the things that you like to do, and maybe there might be things, remember how I like to put things in quadrants? There might be things that you like to do and that you're good at. That's where you should focus your time. And the things that you like to do that maybe you're not that good at. Now there's certain things that we must do in financial services. So if you're financial services, we might not like to do compliance, but we have to do compliance, right, Lonza? But there's certain things that maybe you can outsource, or if outsource seems too bold of a word for you, maybe you can have systems and automation to help you do that so that it's not as burdensome, but it's never easy.
We can do one more question. We've got one over here.
Hi, my name is Robin McCullough. I'm a prospective MBA student. I'm currently a journalist. You said not to confuse aggressive versus assertive behavior. I wanted to know what you meant by that.
Sure. So, growing up, I'm half Asian, I'm ABC, so I was raised, you have to be smart, don't speak out, be quiet, work hard, put your head down, right? But then I entered the world of finance, business, and it's like, you're not aggressive enough, you're not cutthroat. My goodness, I felt a little bit confused. I thought, I didn't understand the distinction. Assertive means you're speaking up. It doesn't mean like you're bold and aggressive. So that's what I mean. Assertive is like, I think that this is right. Like, I know this is right. And having the confidence to say. Whereas aggressive, it means that it's a little bit bold or brash. And I can give a quick example. So there was a situation where I was with a client and the estate planning attorney. And the estate planning attorney said, moderate aggressive. I'm like, well, you know what? I actually think moderate is better. He's like, no, you can do it. I was like, no. Like, I'm the one that's actually going to have to review the account with the client. And this is a trust, which means money has to come out every year, 5% every year. And I'm not having that conversation that it's less. Just not going there. And the estate planning attorney is like, yeah, Rita, that makes a lot of sense. So that answers the question that Nicole was saying about like women were bad negotiators for ourselves, but for other people, like I knew that was in his best interest. So I was assertive enough knowing, you know what, I've been through 2007, 8, and 9. I got walking pneumonia, it was so stressful. I never, and none of my clients fired me, by the way. In fact, they called me, they're like, Rita, we just want to thank you for having us, for taking care of us, and you know, we're not calling to complain, you call other folks, like, more people need your help, we don't need your help. But, so that's what I'm talking about being assertive. If you really believe that something is in someone's best interest, or you really believe in something, it's okay to put yourself out there.